students. Dear students, in this video I am solving a trial balance problem which can be asked in your examination for 5 marks. Don't consider this serial number or anything, just concentrate on the content of this question. The following balances were extracted from the lecture of Ramakrishna Engineering Works on 31st March 1997. You are required to prepare a trial balance as on that date in proper form. See, when we are preparing a trial balance, it is very easy and we have to remember only the concept of dealer, that is the modern accounting rule, and we should be aware of the items, the nature of items. Okay, the modern accounting rule says DEA, drawings, expenses or losses, and assets should be debited. LER, liabilities, equity or capital, and revenue item should be credited. So let's start with this drawings. Drawings should be debited, yes. So drawing should be debited. Here we are debiting that item. Capital they have directly said 24,000, that should be credited. Okay. Sundry creditors, creditor is a liability item, so liability should be credited. Next, bills payable is a liability items, liability should be credited. Sundry debtors is a asset, current assets, asset should be debited. Next, bills receivables is again an current asset, asset should be debited. Loan from Karthik means we have taken a loan from Karthik, that is a liability which we have to pay to Karthik later, so liability is a credit item. Furniture and fixtures are asset, fixed asset for a business, so that should be debited. Opening stock here is an asset to the business, that should be debited. Cash in hand is a current asset to the business, that should be debited. Cash at bank is again a current asset to the business, asset is debited. Tax, let's assume tax, they have not said here prepaid tax. Okay, tax they have said, hence we are considering this as a tax which we had to pay, that is tax is an expenses here, expenses should be debited. Sales is a revenue item, revenue should be credited. Salaries is a expenses item, that should be debited. Sales returns, the sales which we had done that has come back to us worth rupees 1000, so here it is a loss. Okay, when we do a sales and something comes back to us, is a loss, not an expense, it is a loss for us. Next, purchase returns, when what we had purchased and we have returned the item to that particular person back, that is a kind of income to us. Okay. Next, traveling expenses, directly they are saying this is an expenses, obviously you know that expenses should be debited. Purchase returns, losses, okay, expenses or losses should be purchase returns is a income or gains. Okay, so that should be credited. Sales return is a loss. Okay, expenses or losses, but this is not an expense item, that is a loss item, so that should be debited. So here next, traveling expenses is an expense, commission paid is again an expense, that should be debited. Trading expenses is again an expense, that should be debited. Discount earned is a form of income to the business, that should be credited. Discount earned is a form of income to the business, that should be credited. Next, rent we are assuming that we paid the rent here, it is, they have not mentioned rent received, they have just mentioned it as a rent. That means I have paid the rent. Rent paid is a form of expense that should be debited. Next, bank overdraft. Bank overdraft is a current liability. Okay, that is a form of liability where we are taking a advances from the bank. Okay, there are loans or advances from the bank, that is a liability, so that should be credited. Liability should be credited. Purchases is a revenue, purchases is an expense. Purchases is an expense that should be debited. Sales is a revenue item that should be credited. Purchases is a expense that should be debited. So here purchases is debited. So here, once all the items are done, if you total it, both are equal 2,20,100. If if in case you are finding imbalances in debit or credit items, that we can consider as a hidden asset or hidden liability based on the differences of amount. Okay, uh, this is about trial balance. I hope that you understood how to prepare and record a trial balance items.